Hey folks, Chris McLean back with yet another episode. And in the studio today, I've got Zack from Rainmakr. They help agencies land clients. So if you're an agency listening to this, perk your ears up, and this is going to be a great episode for you today. And Rainmakr are a lead gen company. They specialize in the agency space. And that's because Zack originally founded a social media agency, and he knows how selling agency services is quite different to selling a lot of other stuff. And that's why Rainmakr specialize in what they do in the agency space and generating you guys all the leads you could handle. Zack, excited to get into this. I know it's going to be super valuable
Yeah,
for you guys listening at home. Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate having me on.
No, pleasure, man. So take us back to the agency. So pre Rainmakr, how did about what you had a social media agency beforehand?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Basically started that a handful of years ago. And up until that point, my background was always in marketing, especially on the digital side. And yeah, basically kind of, took the biggest risk. At the time, it felt like maybe the craziest thing I've ever done. And looking back, I think it's maybe the least crazy thing I've ever done, which was quit my job with absolutely no clear prospects and just start my own thing and see how that went. So it was definitely, I would say, like 3 or 4 months of sheer terror. And then, we kind of really got a good, process in place for landing clients and growing and that sort of thing. And so that definitely took the pressure off, and we really haven't looked back since. So it's been a wild ride, but a ton of fun.
Yeah, amazing. I love that burning bridges and just kind of cracking on with it. Set yourself up with a bit of just enough challenge to make you uncomfortable and make it exciting and kind of get into it. So what was it about the, I guess your life in your agency yourself that you went, sales is the thing that's the thing I'm on fire about. That's the thing that I do the best.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I guess I'm not entirely sure how it happened. I think some of the things that led me into marketing in the first place were some of the things that kind of then led me into like the prospecting and business development and sales side. And for me, it was just kind of like studying human behavior and seeing like, why do people say yes to this and not to that? And
Right.
and so that's, I think, the thing that got me into marketing in the first place was doing that on kind of a massive scale with advertising or social media or whatever tactics you're using. And then, the sales side of it is very much like a one-on-one version of that. And so I don't know, I just got really into it. It was a lot of fun. Also, I think I just enjoyed talking to people and talking in general. So that was helpful. And being able to like learn a lot from people as well. So I think a lot of it was just like the human interaction component of it. And then really just getting a sense of, okay, how do I need to kind of communicate what I'm doing in a way that someone is going to find value in and want to move forward with us? And then getting that yes is always just like such a, instant satisfaction, instant gratification of I did my job effectively. I think we're all looking for some version of that in life, which is like, how do I know when I've succeeded at my job? And when, hearing yes is like the best way of doing that. Like, okay, that's definitive proof that I was successful today. So I think that was a big part of it too, to be honest.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that validation and that definition of done, right? It's a very clear definition of done when you can say yes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things in life that are everything's kind of subjective and stuff like that. So we're all looking for that thing where you can just check a box and be like, I did it. And so I think that was one of the things that got me excited about it. And so yeah, that's kind of what we got obsessed with, and eventually just built a whole business on it.
Yeah. That you talk about it. I think that's a really critical component, is bringing that passion and that genuine curiosity about the thing that you're going to become masterful at. That's where we can really get into mastery. You're willing to put in the work. You're willing to learn the stuff, do the thing, be uncomfortable. When you've got that, you're driven by that passion, that curiosity of, I genuinely just like this thing. I like talking to people. I like understanding behavior. I like understanding how to kind of weave my way around somebody's stuff and their objections to get to that genuine curiosity, whether that's for sales or for design or coding, whatever that is, that passion, that curiosity, that tends to then create a purpose, right? Then you go, now I'm on purpose, I've got my mission, and you can really become masterful and put the time and attention required to become really, really good at that thing. So now that you're doing that and you're just crushing sales and that's your thing, you started Rainmakr. And how did that process go for you, that decision to start the agency, focus on generating leads for agencies? Sort of how did that niche come about?
Yeah, totally. I would say it kind of came about naturally. So I think the very beginnings of it were basically kind of what I was doing for myself, and eventually, kind of as we built the team, what we were doing for ourselves to generate new business for our own agency. I'm the kind of person where I'm a worrier. If I'm gonna be able to sleep at night, I want to know that my pipeline's full. That very early on, I realized that that's the kind of personality I have. And so that was something I became obsessed with for our own agency, which is like, I want a predictable number of leads that translate into a predictable number of appointments, predictable number of proposals, and then, ideally predictable number of clients per month. And so yeah, basically very early on got obsessed with that, refined that down into a system, and was kind of thinking like, and we would always kind of joke like, hey, if we could do this part of it all day long, we'd be the happiest people in the world. And so kind of talking to some other agencies, some friends, some colleagues and stuff like that about that side of things, they would be like, dude, that's my least favorite part by far, is the sales or business development side. Or maybe you even find somebody who loves it, but is like, I don't have time to like, they might like the sales part of it, but they're like, I don't want to like, grind up against a bunch of this stuff to get, prospecting opportunities. And, I'm one of those weirdos who actually loves it. So the more I kind of had those conversations with people, I kind of saw, hey, this actually might be a really good fit for agencies, then we started kind of pursuing some of those, and had a lot of good engagements with people. And from there, we've kind of really grown quite a bit. So, initially it was just kind of looking at it as like, hey, we got this thing that we're really good at. Is there a use for this for other people? And then I was really excited to learn the answer was very much yes.
Yeah. It's an interesting place, sales. I'm going to phrase this in maybe a different way, but why do agencies generally suck at sales? Why would, just as agency owners, there can be a tendency just to not be very great at the sales aspect? What have you found in your experience?
Yeah, and I think the agencies that we work with and that we talk to on a regular basis, a lot of times it's not even that they're bad at sales. It's just that they don't have people coming to them in a way in which they can just have a certain level of like authority in that conversation. The way I always look at it is, there are a few different kinds of sales styles. And one of them is kind of this more consultative, like I'm an authority, I'm a doctor, lawyer, what have you. I don't have to sell you anything. I just have to be an expert. And so I think a lot of agency owners do well in that sort of sales scenario. But it's getting the prospect to that level is the tough part. So, and I think that's kind of where a lot of times the stumbling block is. So when you can get them to that level of like, okay, you can solve a problem that I have. I believe that you're an expert. What do you got? Most agency folks are great at that part of it. But it's getting them there that can be the tough part, which is the got to knock on some digital doors or whatever, have some awkward conversations, that sort of thing. And so that's kind of where we can plug in. And then the other part of it too is I think just selling services, especially marketing services, I think is just tougher than selling a lot of other things. Like I can't take you in a test drive with a car I have, and I can't tell you how cool it is, or that Elon Musk designed it, or whatever. It's like I'm selling you a theoretical idea that sounds like kind of everything else other people are doing. So that part of it I think is really difficult too.
Yeah. Selling ideas and selling creativity is always it's a sort of an intangible thing. So trying to craft that offer so that it feels like it's something tangible, right? There's a craft and a skill in that for sure. And that is so take us through that front end part. When is it really just it's dropping into people's DMs? It's just doing that kind of graft work of just lead gen, banging on doors. Digital. What is it like sort of tactically most of the time for you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's I can kind of walk you through like what we do for our clients tends to focus on outbound, because we find that tends to work really well for kind of all agencies. And then for ourselves, we definitely do the exact same stuff that we do for our clients. So I think that's also confidence inspiring too. And then we also do some inbound as well, because we've been at it for ourselves for quite a while. So we've developed some things where it's like, okay, we have a very good idea who our audience is and we can reach them at scale. So we also have some inbound stuff that we do for ourselves. And yeah, I think both can work fantastically. And I would say, one of the reasons our service focuses primarily on outbound is just because to me, that's been the most versatile thing possible, which is kind of identifying that key target group of people framing that offer. A lot of times we see when we're working with like new companies or even just as you observe maybe companies that don't work with us, it's a lot of the outbound and even some of the inbound is kind of like, hey, we do marketing stuff, want to hire us? And it's kind of like, well, no, I don't. If I'm the prospect, I'm looking at them being like, I don't need marketing stuff. But if you can kind of frame it as like a solution to a problem they have, then it's a whole different conversation. It's like, oh yeah, I need appointments, or I need like, to improve the ROI on my Facebook ads. And if you can kind of come up with some kind of offer that is not risky to me as a prospect, or just something where you have a lot of credibility or evidence that you can do this consistently, now we're having a totally different conversation than you're just sort of a all around hired marketing hand kind of a conversation, which is, I think, you're not speaking from a place of expertise. So that's kind of some of the stuff that we focus on.
Yeah. So it's about teasing out that value proposition, right? What's the genuine above just the service or the thing or the delivery methodology? It's what's the value? What am I actually getting? What's going to solve a genuine problem or a challenge? And coming up with that. I think that can be a challenge for a lot of agencies. Again, if they're, number one, not clear on who they're trying to be all things to all people, that's kind of a different aspect of that problem where they're not very clear on we do this thing for this person. That certainly helps to narrow it down to then get into, well, what's the value proposition there? Do you find that's do you have agencies coming to you where that's a problem, where they're kind of all things to all people, we're full service and we'll work with every business?
Totally, yeah. And that's something where, and it's almost like a problem. It's like the curse of being too awesome at too many things. Where a lot of the agencies we speak with, and some of the ones we work with too, they're just so good at so many different things. So it's kind of like, oh, where do we even start with this? And they've kind of picked up clients kind of piecemeal here and there, and they have like they know a lot about a bunch of different industries and stuff like that. So it's almost like the burden of genius, I guess, for a lot of our clients. And so that's kind of thing. One is you almost think, and it's logical to think this too, that if I focus on a group of people, like a specific niche, that I'm giving up a bunch of other stuff and I'm leaving a bunch of opportunities on the table, which logically makes sense. But what we find is a lot of times, well, that's technically true, but when you do focus on a specific group of people or a specific audience or a specific problem that you're solving, you become so much more powerful to that group of people. Your message becomes so much more powerful to that group of people. So they're much more willing to listen to you. So I think that's kind of like the biggest thing to kind of wrap your head around, because it's very easy to be like, well, we do everything. Why wouldn't we talk about that? And a lot of times we still do kind of focus on, I think it is an asset in many cases to be full service. But even then we kind of want to frame it as a solution to a problem for a specific group of people. We just find that it resonates a lot better and comes off as a lot less generic.
That definitely seems to be the place that a lot of agencies are winning, is that niching and even hyper niching. Even we do have like a full service agency is taking, well, let's kind of productize and separate out all of the services and lead in with that. We do SEO and web and digital. Let's take SEO, target SEO as a solution to somebody who needs SEO. And then once they're in, then we can kind of pull them back across the rest of that support suite of, well, we've done your SEO, but hey, now let's look at your website. Let's look at your conversion rate optimization. Here's all the other stuff we can do. Is that another way that you can sort of frame it and set it up, that you sort of break out all the services and go, rather than say we do everything, let's target digital to people that have a digital problem, get them in, and then we can broaden the scope across in the back?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a really good point. And yeah, so what we'll find is they're kind of like a few different kind of like buckets we could look at. And when we're dealing with maybe the full service agency, one of the things we'll look at is do you have one thing that's usually like your entry point in? Like a lot of full service agencies, when you kind of press them a little bit, it's like, well, usually they start with SEO and then we kind of upsell them, or maybe not even upsell them, but kind of just like we can help them in other areas too. And so then we might be like, all right, well, maybe we'll lead with the SEO component of it. Or other times it is like a multi-dimensional thing, because we can kind of package it as like a strategy or a solution to a problem. So they might be like, well, we have this awesome, lead gen strategy for home service type businesses like HVAC or something like that. And it could include SEO, Google Ads, some text message marketing, some of that. It could be multiple things, but the prospect's seeing it is as a solution to a problem. So that's another way we found is really successful for kind of more full service agencies. Because I know a lot of people will kind of are sometimes critical of like the full service as like, oh, well, it's too generic. But a lot of times it can also be a huge asset because those things can oftentimes work together really well to help get a result. So we'll also look at it from that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So you sort of looking at niching in a vertical and an industry or a customer base, right? You can have you can or you can sort of niche the industry that you serve. Like I said, if I can be full service for HVAC, or I can be full service for dentists. That's still niche, right? Because I'm narrowing my focus just on doing all of this as a service for dentists. I think it's when you try to be full service for a full service. I do dentists, I do homewares, I do medical, I do everyone on the high street. That's where it can become a little bit. Everything starts to become customized. And do you find from your experience, you find that's just a harder proposition to sell because you're not developing almost like expertise and authority in a specific thing?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a tough sell. Sometimes it works great for some people, and so I always say like if it works for you, keep doing it. I know just from personal experience and kind of seeing some companies, it can be tough to kind of move from industry to industry and really develop like a depth of knowledge. And so and even if you can, because a lot of people are super smart and they can learn, instantly, they can become experts at things. Like we all know people like that where, they didn't know something 1 week and 2 weeks later they've read like 8 books about it and now they know way more than you do. You know what I mean? So there are people who can do it, but I just feel like it also becomes difficult once you start to kind of grow, of making sure the whole team is that way too. And it's just, I think it's just harder. I don't know a whole lot about exactly like the biology of how the brain works, but I just know in my workday, if I'm switching between too many different types of modes of thinking, I'm not as productive. And by the end of the day, I feel like my head overheated a little bit. And so it can be that way too when you're switching from industry to industry and you're like, these terms or these acronyms or this lingo, it can be kind of tough. So it does help if you're kind of in the same ballpark, but I've also seen a lot of agencies make it work the other way too. So, but I guess the way I always look at it is like, doesn't matter what it looks like if it's working for you, but yeah, those are just my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that analogy too. Sort of that biology of, that's that attention residue that we get from task switching, right? When you're sort of doing this thing over here and then you switch over here, you're still kind of thinking about this thing, but you're trying to feed this thing into the system as well. So biologically, neurobiology, that's terrible for attention. But yeah, I like that analogy. It's the same thing if you're trying to do HVAC and then you're doing homewares and then you're doing insurance brokers and they. But again, I guess if you want to do that, you just got to structure your agency so that you have almost specialists in the business that do those specific things. And so that, they said if it's working for you, let's do more of it. If it's not working, let's find another way to. Find a better way to make it work.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I would describe, and I definitely can relate to that way. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love Rainmakr so much. Working on that is, I feel like my brain has good straight line speed, but maybe agility. Like if I have to start kind of cutting around, like now I'm wasting tons of energy all over the place. But if I can kind of like have like a defined straight line, like to me, it's a lot easier to get momentum. So. I know other people that are totally the opposite of that, but yeah, it definitely works for me. So I think that's one of the reasons why we kind of specialized in that way.
Mm-hmm. So now that you've got a team, assuming you sort of built a team out around this now, and you've got what does your team structure sort of look like? How have you been able to, I guess, systemize this sort of sales cycle and this sales process so you can build that team out and get the same consistent result?
Sure. Yeah. So in terms of the structure of our team, we have a sales side, and then we have like an account side. And so on the sales side, that's basically just our sales team who's handling prospecting and conducting sales calls. This is on behalf of Rainmakr to our kind of clients. And then once someone's on board, we would move over to the accounts team, which who's an account manager, people to build the campaigns, some admin, some copywriters, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we have an awesome team. It's honestly that's probably my favorite part of the whole thing is just being able to work with a lot of really, really smart, really talented people who are really motivated and work really well together. That was always kind of my dream when I went into kind of starting my own business. Was I looked forward to kind of having that sort of team. And really kind of be inspired by that sort of stuff. So can't tell you on it's so fun to work with them. I would say I'm by far the dumbest person on the team, and that's not an accident. And I'm so incredibly grateful for them because they do such an awesome job. And yeah, it's just a blast. So yeah, that's I could gush a lot. I'll kind of pump the brakes on that because I could probably go on for the next hour about them. But yeah, that's generally how we're structured.
No, awesome. I love the passion about building a team, and it's always good to be the dumbest person in the room if you want your business to grow and give people that autonomy to grow it for you. Right? It's important to be to be the dumbest one in the room. Hire people that are smarter than you. It's generally a bad idea to hire people that are dumber than you because then it puts the weight on you, right? And you're going to feel like you need to step in and sort of micromanage and do the stuff better than they can. So yeah. Love that philosophy. I think it's really valuable insight to always be looking to hire people that are better than you and that are going to level up and take what you've built and expand on it, right, and make it better.
Yeah, it's so cool, and it's what I would say is it's always easier to dial people back a little bit than it is to kind of push people forward. So if you hire the type of person that is that's like, hey, these are all the ways we could be better, and what if I start doing this and all that kind of stuff, that sort of enthusiasm and intelligence and insight is, you can always be awesome, I want to do all your ideas, but it just might take a couple months to we got to prioritize them and do them little by little. That's always way easier than kind of being hey guys, how do you think it can be better? And then you hear crickets. So thankfully, I never deal with the latter. It's just filled with a bunch of people that are always trying to make everything a little bit better, or sometimes way better every day and every week. And so I think that's one of the if we want to talk about a secret sauce, that's probably it.
Really, in terms of building out a really good team. So just to kind of get wrapped, if agency owners are looking to get better at sales, they're looking to get better at this sort of front end of the business. If you had top tips, let's say top 3 tips of how to get better at this stuff. Obviously, the number one is hire Zack and get him and his team to come in and do it for you. Other than that, in terms of where are the levers that we can pull to get better at this front end of our business if we just want to understand how to do it better for ourselves?
Yeah, so I would look at a couple of things. I'll try to give you a top 2, but this might turn into just a long rambling version of this.
Yeah.
So, but basically, we look at a few things. One is lead generation. We want that to be as predictable as possible. I think a lot of agencies are kind of surviving on referrals, or maybe they're doing some stuff here and there, or they get bogged down with okay, we landed a client, but now we get all bogged down in fulfillment. So having consistent lead generation, whether it's us or anyone else, there's a million things you could do, but get something that's consistent, that you're always putting energy or resources into on a regular basis, that's working for you. I think that's step one. And I think a lot of agencies don't prioritize that because agencies are just tough. There's a lot of stuff to be responsible for. So I think that's kind of thing one. As long as the way I always put it is how well I sleep at night. And I guess I should probably change this because once you have kids, then you just don't sleep at all. So, but I used to say this pre-kid, how well I sleep at night is directly correlated to the level of my pipeline, my prospecting pipeline. If I know I have stuff, even if something's not going great in the business or whatever, we're having a hiring challenge or whatever, maybe one account's not doing so well or whatever, if the pipeline's good, I feel good because I know that that's kind of an investment in the future. So I think that's kind of thing number one. And then thing number 2 would just be shoring up a good, tight, consistent sales process. So having a plan for when you have that introductory call, what you're going to cover on that call, how you're going to handle it, really get a sense of what are all the different factors that can happen. You want to get to a place where your prospect might be having that conversation for the first time, but you've rehearsed or had that conversation hundreds of times. All the possibilities, and have a good, and think about it from their perspective. What would be the things that they would want to get out of it? Make sure you're building trust with them, not just kind of telling them, hey, here's what we do. Try to learn a little bit about them, show interest in them, build some trust and rapport, and then have some kind of consistent thing. So usually the next thing would be like a lot of agencies would be delivering a proposal. Set clear expectations on when that's going to be there. Try to see if you can potentially even set up a follow-up to go over the proposal, so you don't get the dreaded, oh, I sent my proposal out and now I never heard back. It just went into space somewhere and I can't even get them to respond to me. So it might be set up a sales process where you're kind of guaranteeing that they have to show up and agree to a follow-up call to go over it with you, something like that. But set up a tight sales process for that. So those would be probably the two things I would mention right off the bat, that I think just putting those in place, it's amazing. Just creating consistency and getting the reps in, it just makes you that much more confident when you're doing it.
Yeah. Again, a really nice analogy is just getting the reps in. Get very practiced and rehearsed. So this is the same way you want to get really good at pitching, right? In person, you want to have it when you deck down, you know what you're going to say. You're going to have that objection handling in the room. Same thing goes for a sales call or a strategy session. Same thing. You want to have the reps in, know how to fire off answers that can actually support the client, find out if it's a good fit, right, as well, and get that validation of, can we actually genuinely help this person or not? I think that's an important aspect. But predictability, massive for agencies. And like we were saying, you've got a solid pipeline and you know that your definition of done's done today, right? I did 50 outreaches. I sent my emails out. I sent my LinkedIn connects, did my lead gen, did my 2-hour block, my 45-minute block. It's done for the day. I know it's going to keep going. It's consistent. I can sleep well tonight knowing I've done it. Not, as you said, it's a feast or famine, right? I'm all about lead gen, then I get a client, and then I go over here, forget about the lead gen, then I got to go back and just lead gen, and then you get this feast and famine. This sort of dips in the business. And
yeah, and it's so easy to fall into that. Like it's just because of the nature of how an agency works. So I would say block off that time and maybe even make it the first thing you do or whatever, or however people do it. But yeah, it's so true. I've seen that so often where it's like, oh, we were on a good run for a couple months, but then we got bogged down. And it's like, oh man. And I think that's especially common in the agency space because it's so labor intensive, the work that everyone does. Yeah,
it's easy to forget that to have that consistent pipeline and just to have that. If you want that predictability, you've got to take predictable, consistent actions. It's the only way to get it done. Yeah, really, really valuable stuff, Zach. I think there's a lot of value for agencies out there that just who doesn't want more sales, who doesn't want more clients, who doesn't want more business. If we don't have a business, we just got a kind of a shitty hobby that we go to work at every day. So really important stuff to get done. If people want to find out more about Rainmakr, find out more about yourself, where's the best place for them to come and
you could
find out about you?
Oh, sorry, my bad. I kind of jumped you a little bit. You could hit me up on LinkedIn or just check out our website. It's rainmakr.io, and that's Rainmakr, RAINMAKR, so not ER.io. Either way, would love to hear from anybody if they have any questions, even if they're not interested in hiring Rainmakr. Like, that's no big deal. But if you just want to talk like agency sales, like I'm just obsessed with this stuff. So if anyone listening to this or watching this had any questions, would be happy to kind of just shoot the shit with whoever.
Yeah. Awesome. Love that curiosity. Again, it comes back to that passion, that curiosity, just clearly love what you do. You're heavily invested in it and feel that energy. And it's something people can tap in, like an amazing resource. So if you guys want to hit up Zach, I'll drop all those links in the show notes so you can go and find out, get connected, and go shoot the shit about some sales, get some more lead gen in your business, get that consistency, get that nice predictability, build that pipeline, and sleep better at night until you have a couple kids, and then I guess it all goes out the door. But at least you got peace of mind whether you're sleeping or not. Amazing stuff, Zach. Heaps of insight, tons of value there for the people listening at home. Really appreciate you dropping by.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, it was a blast. If anyone got any value out of that's great. Either way, it was a lot of fun talking to you.
Me too, man. It was really good, super valuable. Hey, people out there listening, listen back on this a few times. Or go get connected with Zach. Really, really good insights on getting that front end of your business firing. Thanks, Zack. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And until next time, see you then. Cheers.